Understanding the deep state and the Fed's role in controlling the global economy. 1. The Fed is not owned by the government. Listen, the Fed, the Federal Reserve of the United States. Just hearing the name sounds official, right? Sounds like something that belongs to the government. But the truth is, it doesn't. The Fed is not part of the US government. Crazy, huh? But that's the raw truth. Most people think the Fed is like the Treasury Department or some public agency, but it's not. The Fed is actually a private network of banks owned by the biggest Wall Street institutions. It was created back in 1913 after banking tycoons like JP Morgan, Rockefeller, and Rothschild pushed a law through Congress called the Federal Reserve Act. To say it plainly, the Fed wasn't built for the people. It was built to protect the banking system, their own system. Now imagine it like this. People work, they pay taxes, they use dollars. The US government borrows money by issuing bonds. And the Fed sits in the middle, prints money out of thin air, buys those bonds, and creates debt that everyone else has to pay back. The US government can't control the Fed. The president can't fire the chair of the Fed. Congress only gets to listen to their reports. They can't tell the Fed what to do. In short, the Fed is the most powerful money printing machine on earth, but it doesn't belong to any nation, not even to America itself. Now you see why people call it part of the deep state. Because when a small group of people can create money and lend it to the government, then the real power doesn't belong to the president. It belongs to the one who lends to the president. And that's the raw truth. America may be a democracy, but its money, its bloodline, is controlled by a handful of private financiers, hiding behind a name that sounds so official, the Federal Reserve. 2. Supreme power, creating money out of thin air. Listen. The greatest power in this world isn't being a president. It's the power to create money. The Fed, the US Federal Reserve, has that power. With just a few clicks, trillions of dollars appear out of thin air. No gold to dig, no goods to produce, just numbers on a screen, and boom, real money exists. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly how the system's been running for over a century. When the Fed wants to pump money, they buy government bonds. Basically, they buy US debt. The government sells debt. The Fed prints money to buy it. And just like that, money flows into the market. Where does that money go? Into banks. Banks lend it to businesses, to investment funds, and the money floods into stocks, real estate, and commodities. Everything inflates. Prices rise, and everyone thinks the economy's booming. But the truth is, it's fake wealth. Debt wrapped in sugar. Then, when the Fed wants to tighten, they just raise interest rates. Money flows backward. People stop borrowing. Companies shrink. Bubbles deflate. Markets crash. And who gets hit first? Ordinary people. The big guys, the banks, the funds. They already cashed out long before. So in the end, the Fed doesn't just print money. They print power. With that power, they control America's economy. And from there, the rest of the world. Creating money out of thin air. It's not magic. It's a power game. And only a few people at the top ever get to touch that button. 3. What is the deep state in this picture? The deep state sounds distant and mysterious, but it's actually closer than we think. It's not a bunch of masked people hiding underground controlling the world. It's a system of power behind the political curtain. Real, but invisible to the public eye. Inside that system, 3 main forces work together to control the global economy. First, finance. Second, media and technology. And third, politics. The financial group is the soul of it all. They are the owners of central banks, investment funds, and institutions that issue money. They don't need to show up. Just by adjusting the flow of money, interest rates, credit, printing or tightening, they can make a nation rise or collapse. They fund politicians, election campaigns, even wars. The media and technology group is the mouth and ears of the system. They shape public opinion, control information, and make people believe what they want them to believe. When they want fear, the news is filled with panic. When they want the stock market up, they spread hopeful signals. Ordinary people don't realise it, but they're being guided by programmed narratives. And the politicians, they're just the faces on stage. They stand on podiums, speak about justice, democracy, and the people, But behind them are the hands that truly hold the power. The biggest decisions, printing money, bailing out banks, raising taxes, starting wars, always have traces of people who never appear in public. This kind of power doesn't need guns or coups. It only needs control over money and perception. And once people depend on the money they create, every election, every policy becomes just a surface-level game. Put bluntly, the deep state isn't someone else. It's the network of interests hiding behind official names. It's a group of people who can make decisions without public accountability. And once they control the Fed, the media and the politicians, they don't need to hold office, because they already hold the power. 4. How they control the global economy. The truth is, they don't need to fight anyone, just one button, raise or lower interest rates, and the whole world shakes. When the Fed raises interest rates, the US dollar gets stronger. Money everywhere flows back to America because everyone wants the safer, higher yield currency. And when that happens, other countries run dry. Businesses can't get enough dollars to import goods. Banks can't get enough to pay debts. Local currencies lose value, prices go up, people struggle to survive. Meanwhile, big US investment funds start hunting, buying up cheap assets from nations drowning in crisis. One policy move, and hundreds of millions of people have to tighten their belts. Then, when the Fed cuts rates, the money floods back out into the world. Cheap credit. Everyone borrows, everyone invests. Stocks go up, real estate goes up, gold goes up. People think the economy's back. They think they're smart. They think it's their time. But in reality, it's just a bubble inflated by debt. And when the Fed tightens again, boom, the bubble bursts, and ordinary people lose everything. History repeats itself, only the year and excuse change. That's how the Fed sets the rhythm of the global economy. Print and pull, expand and contract, breathe in and breathe out. And most countries, no matter how independent they seem, are really just dancing to someone else's rhythm. It sounds distant, but it's not. When gas prices rise, when your currency weakens, when companies collapse, it all starts with a decision made in a quiet room in Washington, D.C. 5. The naked truth. The Fed doesn't print money for the people. It prints for banks, corporations, and indebted governments. The deep state doesn't need to make laws. They just control money and information. And when everything can be bought with money, the one who prints the money is the real ruler.